You are listening to Smart Women's Dating Podcast, episode number 57. Welcome to Smart Women's Dating Podcast. I am your host, certified life coach Lærke Nielsen, and I help smart, independent women attract the love they deeply desire without having to chase or settle. This podcast will give you the mindset tools and insights you need to finally crack the code to your love life. Are you ready? Then let's go. Hey there, welcome back to the podcast. Do you recognize any of this? You catch yourself regularly looking at the phone to check if a guy that you are dating has texted you back, and if you don't hear from him for a couple of hours, you start worrying that he's lost interest. You analyze the way he texts you and his choice of words and whether he uses smileys or not, to an extent where it starts to feel almost obsessive. You kind of expect that he's going to pull away sooner or later, so you look for the subtle signs that the time has come so that you can be more prepared. And you struggle to concentrate on other things when you are in this phase, and seeing him and sensing that he hasn't lost interest calms your nervous mind, but only temporarily. The moment you are apart, you start wondering again. If you recognize this, you are attached in an unhealthy way. You are anxiously attached. But what does that even mean? And is it a circumstance you have to live with, or can you work on changing that to feel more secure and maybe even enjoy the early stages of dating? In this episode, I will share with you the nature of being overly attached and in an unhealthy way, and why some of us do that, why it's a problem, and what it looks like when someone is not attached, or at least more securely attached. And of course, maybe the most important part here, I will give you 7 concrete steps and advice on how to let go of some of that unhealthy attachment so you can feel more relaxed and safe, because that is 100% possible for you. So the Buddha said, the root of suffering is attachment, as in attachment to external circumstances being in a certain way for us to be happy. The more we depend on other people or circumstances in our life being in a certain way in order for us to feel good, the more we suffer. We delegate our well-being and happiness to something and someone outside ourselves. And the trick is instead to just accept what comes into your life and then allow it to leave when it's time, knowing that what is meant for you will stay with you. Okay, but having said that, I think you would probably have to be a meditating monk in Tibet for 20 years or so to completely let go of all attachment, especially to other people. I mean, we can work on feeling less attached or even unattached to a car, a house, a certain income, and so on. But not being attached to the people we love, that's a difficult one. So that's like the one extreme, letting go of all attachment. And the point is not to go there just like that. The point is to find a healthy way of being attached and not allowing attachment to take power over you in the early phases of dating. But why do some people so easily get attached? To begin with, I want you to see that the ability to become attached to other human beings is in itself actually very healthy. This is what has helped us survive as a species. Back in the days when we lived in caves, it wasn't the freedom-loving and avoidantly attached people who survived. It was those who naturally felt attached to the tribe and who felt inclined to follow the group and adapt to the other people in the group, to seek their acceptance and ensure that they didn't stand out too much from the group. All this is naturally programmed into our primitive brain, and being rejected socially would at that time equal a risk of not surviving. Being able to create some degree of attachment with others has helped us survive, but it doesn't mean that the anxious attachment is healthy. And today, in modern day life, we do not depend on the tribe to survive anymore. But if you identify as someone who tend to become overly attached, I just want you to see how attachment in itself is not a bad thing. It's a survival mechanism. It just needs to be tamed a little bit. It needs to be managed. So, in other words, don't beat yourself up just because you tend to be easily attached. Now, the reason that some of us are more anxiously attached and others are not is the individual programming that we have from early childhood, which is also called the attachment style. So, if you have experienced from early childhood that love and attention was not reliable sources, your caretaker was not able to provide for your needs on a consistent basis, then you are likely to develop an anxious attachment style. This also means that as an adult, if you have not worked with healing this and changing the pattern consciously, you are programmed to not trust that love is naturally coming to you and staying with you. In fact, you somehow expect it to go away. You might not be conscious about it, but you don't fully trust that a partner will continue loving you and being there for you. Deep down, you might believe that once they get to know you for real, then they will leave. And when we are anxiously attached, we panic when we start seeing the signs that someone will leave. And we see the signs everywhere when we're triggered and our anxiety is hijacking our brain. We fear abandonment more than anything else. And the thoughts about it, the fear of it, that is sometimes almost worse than the actual rejection. We create a horrible, horrible suffering for ourselves by letting these thoughts run wild in our brain. So in early dating, this could mean that you hyper-focus on if someone takes you back and whether it took him longer than usual, or if you sense that there's a slight change in the way he's answering. Is it less positive? Why aren't there any happy smileys this time when he used to do that last week? Or isn't it just a slightly different ambience in the text? It's very short and very factual. Why is that? And when you see him, you try to read between the lines. You focus on seeing if he seems less interested or if he's sending you some kind of unconscious signals that tell you that he's losing interest. Or maybe you do actually get the relief of feeling that everything is okay. He validates you and you feel certain that you are both on the same page. But the relief is temporary because the minute you are no longer together, you start wondering again. At some point, it becomes a thing that robs you from the joy and fun that you could have with him, because you are constantly thinking about whether everything is okay, and you need him to validate you, but you also don't want to be needy. So you think of ways you can get this validation without asking, and all your thoughts are consumed with this one question: is he still into me or not? And at the same time, you completely forget to ask yourself, am I still into him or not? You're basically trying to get into his mind all the time, not staying with yourself. An interesting fact is that many women with this attachment style unfortunately attract men who have a dismissive avoidance style, so someone who is the opposite, who fears losing their freedom and doesn't want the connection to be too engaging. This is both because it confirms the basic belief behind the attachment style that love and attention is inconsistent and can easily be lost. But it's also because it just feels familiar and there aren't necessarily any red flags showing to the anxiously attached person. They don't see them because it's normalized to them. And finally, there's also a theory that engaging in a connection with an avoidantly attached will offer you a possibility to relive and correct the errors of early childhood. So, like we unconsciously seek to put ourselves in that same position and then this time heal the childhood wound. And the problem is that if you have a tendency to be anxious and you are dating or seeing someone who is avoidant, then their lack of consistent attention will actually activate your anxiety, so you become even more anxiously attached. And the more you become anxious, the more you will want to seek his validation, and the more he will feel that his freedom is threatened, and the more he withdraws. So the cycle is created. So it's obvious why this way of attaching is a problem for you, because you basically just feel anxious most of the time and you're missing out on the joy and the fun. And also, you struggle to just relax and be authentic. Being authentic requires you to be willing to take an emotional risk and accept that he might not like you as you are for real. And as this is triggering a deep fear in you, you are not comfortable showing yourself to him. So you end up at some point realizing that you are not even your good old self who can laugh and make jokes and be spontaneous in sharing your thoughts and ideas. You are more a person who's trying to figure out what he likes most and how to be the woman that he will admire, while at the same time you constantly worry about what he's thinking about you. And the irony is that you fear abandonment so badly, but in the end, you abandon yourself. And most likely he will feel this shift as well. Before, when you didn't even know yet if he was someone interesting for you, when you just met him, you were this confident woman with a lot of stuff going on in your life and having opinions about things. And now you're becoming a little bit graspy, you seem insecure, you're waiting for his reaction all the time, and you're trying to please him. This shifts the balance between you. You are no longer two independent individuals if you need his validation. And he needs to shift into a caretaker energy when you need something from him. And this can only last for so long, then he's gonna feel turned off. He might not be able to say exactly what happened and why he feels less attracted to you. But you are turned off as well because anxiety is not exactly an aphrodisiac for you either. And if you take this to the extreme, then in the end, you will create a self-fulfilling prophecy. When we are too needy, we push people away instead of getting the validation we need. So now, if you recognize any of this from your own patterns, you might feel really bad about yourself, but I want you to be kind and full of compassion for yourself here. You did not create this attachment style to begin with. This was conditioned in your brain very early in your life, and inside you is still a little girl who was repeatedly shown that the love and attention she so deeply needed was not available on a consistent basis. It was not to be trusted. And so when it's there, you've got to grab onto it and do everything you can to make it stay. It's an emotional survival mechanism. Your inner child still feels the cold of being abandoned, of the love and care being taken away from her. Of course, you've got to react like this. But even if this was not your fault, you are the only one who can change it now. You have the power and responsibility to heal that wound and to prevent it from opening wide up every time you meet someone you really like. But before I give you some simple steps on how to do that, let's just take a moment and look at what it looks like when someone is unattached or securely attached. Being unattached is actually a very feminine energy. It is the energy of having a strong inner sense of self-worth, feeling worthy and deserving of love, no matter what and independent of circumstances. A woman who is unattached does not feel a need to control anything outside herself, including other human beings. She has a deep inner knowing that she is enough, and no one can take away her lovability. No one. It's letting go of any attempt to control the outcome of a romantic connection. She has a deep trust that what is right for her and what is meant for her will stay with her. And she will never abandon herself. She is very true to herself, her boundaries, her values, and her authenticity. And she knows how to speak kindly to herself, how to have her own back and not let rejection mean that she's less worthy. Of course, she will feel sad if someone she likes doesn't want to stay with her, but she refuses to believe in painful narratives about this being a sign that there's something wrong with her. This woman didn't necessarily grow up in a loving and well-functioning family. I want you to see that this is a state of mind that is totally possible for you to achieve by working intentionally on your thoughts about yourself. So how does she show up in early dating? A woman who is in this unattached energy, she will enjoy the experience of meeting someone new that she finds interesting. and she will receive with joy all the attention and compliments and efforts that a man is doing to pursue her. But it will all be a bonus to her. It's a plus. It's something extra. It's not her basic needs. It's the frosting on the cake, not the cake itself. She is abundant. She already has a life that she loves. She doesn't need him to have a fulfilling life. She wants him, but she doesn't need him. So she's gonna feel excited when he texts her and be open to seeing him and going on dates when he invites her. But she's not gonna feel a lack if he doesn't. If she sends him a text and he doesn't answer right away, she just notices that, and she might tell herself that he is busy doing other things, and that is good because she prefers a man who has an active life. And if she at some point realizes that he's no longer interested in her, she's gonna pull her attention away from him as well and conclude that it wasn't a good match. Nothing has gone wrong. It's part of the dating process, and she can let go without judgment. She doesn't worry about what he thinks of her. She accepts that she can't know that, and there are no guarantees in love. Instead, she prefers to check in with herself to see what she thinks about him and how she feels when she's in his company. She allows herself to evaluate their connection to see if she feels seen and heard and if she likes the person she is with him. And she also checks in with what she desires in a man and whether he has that. She doesn't worry that if she lets him go, she will never meet anyone else. She knows that she will continue to meet interesting men if she wants to. So how can you then work on getting there if you are right now in an anxious pattern? So I used to have an anxious attachment style, and I had some serious smacks in the face because of that. I did actually a few times push away men by being graspy and needy and only realizing when it was too late. And this was, of course, way before I knew about life coaching, so I had no clue what to do. But one thing that gradually changed my pattern was to be in a relationship with a securely attached person for many years. I think that seeing and experiencing that we could have a fight and he still would be there the next day, that has deconditioned my nervous system to feel more safe and not freak out about whether a small disagreement would potentially lead to abandonment. Also, shifting into feminine energy and deciding to stop chasing men who didn't automatically come towards me was very helpful. This is a small step that in the beginning can be very challenging, but over a longer term really has a huge impact. When we chase someone, we confirm the belief beneath the anxious pattern that love doesn't flow naturally towards us, and we have to grasp onto it when we see it. So chasing energy only perpetuates the anxiety and consolidates the attachment style. Later on, when I learned about coaching, I got so many tools to not only increase my awareness about this and see what the F was going on, but also to take back my power and own my patterns so I could start changing them. And today, if I take a test on attachment style, I am securely attached. I have changed my patterns a lot, and for the record, I did not grow up in a happy and well-functioning family with lots of attention and validation for everyone. It was a dysfunctional childhood, and I got to know anxiety, eating disorders, sleeping disorders, and things like that way too early in life. So I'm not saying that to blame anyone. We all do our best based on what we have learned ourselves and our capacity to unlearn what's not working for us. I'm only saying this to give hope to those of you who believe that you can never unlearn the patterns. You can, and it's totally worth the effort and the work of doing it. It's a self-empowerment journey. So it's obvious that I can't help you heal completely in a podcast episode, and in order to do some really constructive work on this, I recommend that you consider working with a coach on a one-to-one basis, because that's going to help you move forward much faster and in a much more direct way that also feels better for you than if you do this alone. But I still believe you can do a lot to shift your patterns on your own, so I'm going to give you here 7 tips. The first one is take back control to what you can control. So instead of trying to grasp onto him and seek his validation, Come back to yourself and work on your thoughts about yourself. Remember, you are always 100% worthy of love. Nothing can change that. No man can change that, and nothing you do or say can change that. This is your given birthright. The man who is right for you will see that and treat you accordingly. Now, you have to start by treating yourself with respect and love first. So practice being kind and understanding towards yourself and let go of the negative self-talk and judgment. Know that if you are your true and honest, authentic self, then what is meant for you will come to you and it will stay with you. And the rest was never meant to be, and maybe you are actually better off without, but you just don't know. Number 2 step is when you feel triggered, then do this. Practice noticing that it's most likely the anxiety talking. Choose to not listen to it and instead focus on the facts. What did he actually say? What did he actually do? Can this be interpreted in any other ways than what your anxiety tells you? And number 3 is make peace with the worst case scenario. Try to go to the worst case scenario in your mind. What if he does actually leave you? Then what? Will you survive? Have you been happy before you met him? Of course you would be sad if it happens, but your life will continue. It is not the end of the world. Number 4 is create emotional connections with others. Cultivate emotional intimacy with other people as well. You might have to push yourself in the beginning, but try to have at least 3 persons that you can be vulnerable with. Choose someone you like and trust and then start opening up with them. This will make you more emotionally resilient. And number 4 is make sure you have other sources of joy in your life than dating. Make a list of things that light you up, all your passions, and make it a habit to cultivate them regularly. Decide also to try new things and develop your passions as well. This can be a very good way to grow your confidence and also make you feel more strong and resilient. And number 6 is act from the right intentions. Focus on who you want to be more than what you want back from him. So when you send him a text, for instance, don't do it to get a certain reaction. Do it because this is who you want to be in the connection. Everything you do should come from the energy of who you want to be, how you want to show up, and with no attachment to the response that you might get or that you want to get from him. And the last one, number 7, is focus on how you feel and less on trying to guess or control what he feels. So this was 7 very simple steps, and I hope this, together with the awareness of how an anxious attachment can impact you and what it could look like to let it go or let some of it go, I hope this helps you get an idea of how to move forward. Dating anxiety based on feeling too attached early on to different degrees is very normal and is not something you have to just accept. You can learn how to work with it and to regain your power and the confidence that you feel when you are at your best. If you recognize some of this and you want a coach to support you, then please feel free to reach out and book a call with me so we can chat and I can tell you more about the possibilities of working with me. Thank you for listening. I will be back next Thursday, and in the meantime, have a beautiful week and enjoy dating. If you like what you're hearing on this podcast and you want to get support from a coach on your love journey, I invite you to book a free consult call with me. You will find the link in the show notes. And also, don't forget to subscribe, and I would love it if you would rate and review this podcast, and then you'll also help other women find it.